Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. So you would recall that in the time of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was looking for a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Couldn't find it. At the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was dealing the confluence and the remnants of all the invasions into India, that Vedic culture as we know it had pretty much dissipated. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta re-established the pure Krishna conscious understanding of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada himself, he carried this evangelistical or this outreach spirit very strongly. And what we have today is an international society where you can walk into any temple and find the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can find the Srimad Bhagavatam. You can find the authentic descriptions of the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So we have inherited a great fortune, both you and I. We've inherited great fortune and a great responsibility that comes with that fortune. Because the devotee who has received that great fortune, in expressing his gratitude, that gratitude can only be expressed by bringing others to the joy and happiness of devotional service. So that requires some organization, some planning, some facility, some engagement, sitting together and strategizing, because we're now a global society. Johannesburg is 37% of Africa's GDP. So in this city, can you imagine, almost 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5 dollars are earned and spent. So as Nanda Kumar Prabhu was saying, to put the flag down of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is our duty, our responsibility. We might have our own commitments and householders and we have limited time, but each of us have some ability, like a spider. You know, a spider can spin a thread 100 times thinner than a human hair. Spider doesn't go to a trade school. Does a spider go to a trade school? No. It's got that innate ability. So every human being, by the grace of God, the grace of Krishna, has some innate ability, whatever that ability might be. If we aggregate that ability, we have a beautiful offering to Krishna. But if we have that ability in some or the other, because of our time constraints and family commitments, we some or the other subordinate the Sankirtan mission. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam is meant to be ever increasing. Whether we like it or not, whether we're part of it or not, the prediction is given in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Prithivi Yachayate Nagaradi Gram Savatra Prachara Vive Moranam. Krishna's name will go to every town and village. Somehow or the other, we have the good fortune of being at a time in history where, like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and his disciples and devotees were at a time in history. Srila Prabhupada in the 60s was at a time in history. We are at a time in history where we can do something special. And if we squander that opportunity, what a tragedy that would be, isn't it? It would be a great tragedy. And the time we have is so valuable. Just consider how valuable this time is. A devotee was speaking about Maharaj's book, Vanity Karma. If you ever get a chance to read this beautiful book, there's a very beautiful section on time. How time envelops everything. You know, it drags you from childhood and brings you into youth, and you have a glorified and a bountiful position in youth, and then you become middle-aged, and then you become an old man, and it's all finished. Whether you like it or not, this time factor is dragging you. There's a very famous surgeon in India who's the mother of a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine. She's not a devotee, but was the most famous surgeon in India. She must have delivered hundreds and thousands of babies. She's now 80 years old. So whenever I go to India and I'm in Mumbai, I visit them. They come from a Jain family. So we have a meal with them and spend some time with them. So the last time I was there and I went to see, she was in her room. And you know what she was doing? The most brilliant scientist in India. She was playing with puzzles. She had all of these puzzles lined up in her drawer. And she was showing me which one she has done and which one she was going to do next. Can you see what time does to you? It completely humiliates, completely destroys and destructs everything. So while we have energy to do something for Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada has set it all up, all we have to do is just, we don't have to figure out so many things. The Sankirtan mission is already at play. There's books. There's so many opportunities just to catch the right frequency, 94.7. You just catch the right frequency and there's no rustling sounds or anything. You hear it very carefully. Like when we chant Hare Krishna, Paraspara, when I chant you hear, when you chant I hear. Right? The holy name is the center of a devotee's life. But what's the holy name about? It's asking us to engage in Krishna's service. So, coming from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, you would know that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur personally taught Srila Bhaktisiddhanta about paper quality, about printing. Because in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, we are meant to be evangelists. We never meant, it's not for our own salvation. Now we have a huge global society, and all over the world. We had a conference in Mauritius last week, and we were saying that one of Srila Prabhupada's books touches somebody's hand on the planet every 3 seconds. So what do you think will happen to that type of compact contact? Eventually, we have faith in Srila Prabhupada's words, in Krishna's words, that the world will become transformed. But we ourselves have our duty. We have a role. We have a spiritual occupation in that greater organization of things. And that responsibility, because Krishna says, there's none so dear to me than he who preaches my glories, isn't it? That commitment to preach Krishna's glories. You see, where we are, we might come and we are comfortable. But when guests come, they need a facility. Jiva Goswami, who's our Siddhanta Acharya, he had arranged originally, so many years ago after Lord Chaitanya, for a businessman to sponsor a special cart that came to Vrindavan that took all the books of the Goswamis. Narottam was there, Srinivasacharya, I think, was there. They were very comfortably situated in the Dham, in the association of their spiritual master. They had no reason to leave Vrindavan. But when Jiva Goswami instructed them, they left. And we read the pastimes of Narottam. Same with Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta instructed, you go and preach in the English language. Then Srila Prabhupada is instructing us. If you want to please me, distribute my books. So here in Sandton we have this oasis. We've created, with Nanda Kumar Prabhu's leadership, something very wonderful, something very beautiful. And from here many things can spring up. We need better diversity. When Srila Prabhupada came to South Africa, he gave 3 instructions. He says, build the temple at Radharadhanath, we did that. He said, install Jagannath deities. We did that in Phoenix, right? And then he said, preach to the local African people. He says, actually, as a matter of fact, Srila Prabhupada said, don't waste time with these nonsense Indians. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada said that. Because Srila Prabhupada was concerned, like if you're in Japan, you preach to the Japanese, it's their country. And so where we are in South Africa, we have to accept as the leaders and those of us who are planning and organizing, we have one very significant failure. We haven't reached out to the diversity. That real rainbow nation can only be built through a contact of heart-to-heart devotion. All the other things are superficial. When you connect heart-to-heart with Krishna in the center, then Krishna, as our common Father, we're all united spiritually in such a strong way that nothing can break that. But it's one thing the management, although it's tried, I think it'd be fair to say it's tried. Just this morning, I received an email, or last night, from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj. We were speaking about some strategies. And there was a discussion and a proposal that 4 young South African boys would be nominated for sannyas. And amongst the 4, we have Narottam, we have Rajabasi Prabhu, we have Savyasachi Prabhu, and Ratim Krishna Prabhu. So how are you? So if we were able to create, some representation like that, and now if you multiply that, and multiply that again, square it, and cube it, what will happen? What will happen? You'll have a jump start of Krishna consciousness. The moment we think that this is some kind of superior form of Hinduism, we've given up Hinduism because it's absolute nonsense, isn't it? It's completely corrupt. We've given it up and accepted Gaudiya Vaishnava culture because Gaudiya Vaishnava culture is the real thing. It's philosophically, culturally, it's the real thing. So when we have a Krishna conscious society in South Africa that's dominated by one particular group, it can give the impression that this is some kind of glorified Hinduism. And some or the other, between ourselves, we have to have that conversation, as painful as it might be. And it's not too late for us to try and change the course of things. We have to help Mahaprabhu in Soweto do more, constrained by funds, resources. Do you know what the value of ISKCON is? When Srila Prabhupada went to America, he had, I think it must have been the equivalent of $7. We did a calculation 50 years later. That $7 is perhaps worth $2 billion, 45% compounded year on year. I place before you that there may be some companies on the New York Stock Exchange that might be smaller than ISKCON. So it's become, how is it possible in just 50 years? Just 50 years. In the institutional age of ISKCON, it's still a child. But it's done so much. So when we are, it's also, when we have these facilities, it's also the mind which is that facility. That mind needs to be readjusted, rewired. Pull the green cord out and touch it to the blue cord. That means we're looking at trying to transform South African society with many, many Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So, Vaishnavas going to parliament, Vaishnavas going to, all echelons of society. So we can be, because we have an important message to share, don't you agree? Who can say as a devotee you're not happy? Have you met an unhappy devotee? Why are we happy? Because we have Krishna's holy names. We are chanting Hare Krishna. So if we have the formula for happiness, we have a duty to share it. It's not like you can go to Pick and Pay and buy 5 kilograms of happiness. Can you do that? Can't do it. Happiness comes from within, from being careful in chanting Hare Krishna, carefully following all the principles, serving the spiritual master, and serving the order of the spiritual master. So when Srila Prabhupada came, he gave the instruction. That's what he said. It's recorded in the 1975 discussion. So if we want to please Srila Prabhupada, we have to apply our minds, get the aggregate wisdom into place to see how we can make that difference. So Nandakumar Prabhu, we want to congratulate you and your team for reaching this milestone, 5 years. Shri Panchatattva ki, 5 years. Where you have the mercy of Lord Nityananda, in the mood of Lord Nityananda. What did Lord Nityananda do? He rolled on the ground and get people to chant Hare Krishna. Who's he? He's Balaram. He's not different to Krishna, but he was rolling on the ground, and just for the price of your faith. Shraddhavan Jan Hey, Shraddhavan Jan Hey. Lord Nityananda Prabhu was doing that just for the price of your faith. So who are we? We are infinitesimal, passing in time. Somehow or the other, we are connected to Srila Prabhupada through our respective spiritual masters. What an opportunity. If we just sit quietly somewhere when you go home today and just contemplate your good fortune. It's an easy way to do it. Imagine if you're not a devotee, what would you be doing on a Sunday? And now imagine that you are a devotee. You have a bead bag, you have beads. Of course, there's a small bag, a bead bag, and there's a book bag, right? As the big bag, more realization comes and you reach for the book bag. Because the book bag is what it's all about. The Sankirtan Movement is about giving Krishna to others. To give Krishna in the form of his books, the form of a center like ISKCON Sandton. We must be comfortable to bring our friends here. We should create an environment where people are not intimidated. Not everyone can sit on the floor, isn't it? So we've got a first-class restaurant, so we can bring our friends a first-class prasad, and we can expand. Therefore I was chanting that verse, Cheto Dharpanam Marja. That the Sankirtan Movement is an Annam Buddhi Varshana, it's ever increasing. And we have our little role to play in that. Nanda Kumar Prabhu, however we can serve you, please let us know. My only request is that we must liquidate whatever debts we have. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, disease, debt, and fire you deal with immediately. You don't leave it for the next day. So if our temple is indebted, we must deal with it immediately. That's the priority. Priority number one. We must liquidate the debt. When we liquidate the debt, then we have freedom to do other things. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanand.